and Liam Halligan, GBNews' Economics Editor. I've been away in America for a few days, but every time I look at breaking news, I'm hearing that top rate tax could go back to 50%. I'm in the last hour hearing that another hit on small businesses potentially with the VAT threshold of 85,000 being frozen. And is this a game? Are they saying it's going to be really terrible? When they raise taxes but not that much, we say, oh, thank goodness for that.
It may be a softening up exercise by the young thrusters surrounding the Chancellor and the Prime Minister, the spin doctors operating in the dark, telling their mates in the media that all these high tax rises are coming. So when it's less, we feel that we haven't been so hard done by. If it is just a game, it's a very dangerous game, Nigel, because this kind of talk hits businesses, hits investment decisions, undermines business confidence and therefore jobs. But look, we're already at a situation where we're heading for the highest tax burden, tax as a share of GDP of national income in the UK since the days of Clement Attlee, 36.5% of our national income. And now it seems we're going to go even higher. And the focus ahead of this autumn statement next Thursday, this time next week, of course, we'll be talking about it.
Yeah.
The focus seems to be that the Treasury, in their kind of clever way, they're not going to raise actual tax rates because all of us small people can understand when they increase the actual tax rate and we get upset about it. They're going to freeze the thresholds. They're going to rely on something called fiscal drag, keeping the inheritance tax threshold where it's been since 2009 all the way to 2028, keeping the income tax threshold where it is all the way until 2028,
and so
dragging ordinary people, relatively modestly paid people into higher tax brackets to get more revenue.
George Osborne was doing this.
Yep.
But the difference is inflation wasn't running at 10%.
That's right.
So this is now very real, isn't it?
To increase the tax burden on ordinary people, ordinary firms, as you said, corporation tax rise from 19% to 25%, taking 6% off the margin, off a lot of relatively small firms after they've been hammered during lockdown. It's going to close a lot of them down. It's going to be the last straw. But also increasing the tax burden on modest earners by this use of what we call fiscal drag, freezing the thresholds, stealth taxes, so that ordinary people are paying hundreds, even thousands of more pounds per year in tax. I really have concerns about this, Nigel, increasing the tax burden as we're on the brink of recession, probably already in recession, and monetary policy is squeezing, interest rates going up. It's like a triple whammy on ordinary firms and ordinary households. And the danger is, rather than rescuing the economy, it craters the economy and we end up with a lot less tax revenue and deeper in the fiscal hole anyway.
And this is Treasury orthodoxy, is it? Because
this is the Treasury orthodoxy that Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng were fighting against. And of course, they did too much too soon. You and I have talked on your show about this over the last couple of weeks. They did do too much too soon. But the intelligent response to that mini budget isn't to say, oh, the only alternative is to raise taxes even more from where they already are. The intelligent response is to take the country with you, is to do things gradually, is to win the arguments, is to reassure the markets as you go, is to say that the Bank of England shouldn't be selling loads of bonds back to the market at the same time that the government's announcing that it might want to borrow a bit more. The whole thing was very badly coordinated. The mini budget, of course, was politically clumsy, but the response shouldn't be to raise taxes even more, Nigel, when we're on the brink of recession.
No, and I mean, where is the voice of opposition? You see, what really interests me is that Liz Truss, the biggest number of MPs voted for Liz Truss. The party membership voted for Liz Truss. She didn't hide what the agenda was. It was very clear, very out there in the debates. Now, and I've called him a globalist because that's what I think he is, Hunt takes over, Sunak comes in. Where are the Conservative voices of opposition? They appear to have gone to ground.
Well, there's a big part of the British establishment that simply wants the state to get bigger, Nigel, not just in Whitehall, but across a lot of our institutions, across a lot of our broadcast and some of our print media. And if you want to win the argument for a smaller state, and it seems that every generation has to win the argument anew, you need to push back. There is a big amount of momentum. There are a lot of people with big megaphones talking about higher taxes, talking about more money for the state. We're covering the nurses wanting 17%. And of course, we want our nurses to be paid in a decent way. But how about the 4/5 of the workforce that don't work in the public sector? They work in the private sector. They're going to have to pay for these pay rises. I do wonder whether Rishi Sunak has got the kind of intellectual heft and grit and determination to push for more enterprise-friendly policies, to push for lower taxation, to push for a smaller state. He says he wants that, but has he got the actual guts day to day to chip away?
We've had 12 years, Liam. 12 years of the Tory party telling us they're about small state and low taxes and controlled borders, and doing the opposite in every single regard. That's certainly what strikes me. But, you know, he'll put this forward. They've got a big majority in the House of Commons. It will go ahead. And, you know, the group that I'm most worried about, and I really am most worried about, are the 5.5 million people out there running small businesses, acting as sole traders, employing, by the way, a lot of other people too. And if you add it all up, through small business and employment, and, you know, their parents and kids and families that are involved in this, you know, you're looking at 15 million plus people in this country directly affected by this. And yet it seems there is an attitude within the modern day Conservative Party that says that all small business people are basically thieves, and we're going to crack down on them.
You know, Rishi Sunak, he's got all this kind of flashy experience in investment banks and big asset management companies, but does he really understand how to run a small business, how to meet payroll at the end of the week, not every month, because a lot of people are paid weekly, of course, still, to actually build a business and create something from nothing? Or is he just all about hooking his wagon up to already very well-known and prestigious institutions in business? I do think grassroots Conservatives understand this. I do think a lot of GBNews viewers and listeners understand it, that our small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, account for half the UK's GDP every year, half of our growth, and 2/3 of our employment. And if a Conservative government can't stand up for those people, then what is the point of a Conservative government? And my concern is that as this autumn statement, with this hike in corporation tax, with this potential freeze on the VAT threshold, as you said, with stealth taxes on ordinary people, on ordinary wages, it could very, very easily backfire. It may be what the Treasury mandarins want, but I don't think it's what the country wants.